This really quick video is just going to walk you through the installation steps required to get the new Vagabond Motorsports sliders for the GSX-S1000 and S1000F onto the motorcycle. The really novel feature of our sliders is that if you tip the bike over or low side it and just need to replace a puck, you can actually unscrew the nice Delrin puck, buy a new one from us, and reinstall it. What you're left with is kind of the primary structural post. That's a nice aluminum black anodized piece, and then the motor mount is actually recessed really deep into this post, such that if you ever get in a really big shearing crash, like a curb or something like that, it's not going to have a long bolt that's just going to crank in a lot of leverage and damage your motor mount and potentially even your frame. So that's one of the key details that really differentiates our sliders from the other ones on the market. And if you ever need to replace a puck, absolutely toolless. There's an O-ring here that keeps all the moisture out, protects that high strength steel bolt inside. You just screw it on past the O-ring and it is rock solid, and you got a brand new slider puck on. To quickly summarize the parts you're going to get in your slider kit for the Suzuki GSX-S1000, S1000F motorcycles, you're going to get two Delrin slider pucks, two aluminum slider posts that have O-ring seals pre-installed, and then two high-strength steel replacement bolts. And the right side bolt is 10 millimeters longer than the left side bolt, and that's true on the factory bolt setup, and we're just carrying it over. As for tools you're going to need, you will need a long 8 millimeter Allen socket, a ratchet, and a torque wrench. Torque wrench values we're actually going to just end up are either going to be 35 foot-pounds or 60 foot-pounds, depending on which hole you choose in your frame. So a torque wrench in that range of adjustment is a good tool to have. And the reason we need this long Allen socket is because we mount, or we sink our motor mount bolts fairly deep down into the slider posts. And the reason we do that is in a couple unique crash scenarios where the bike is sliding and there's a kind of a snag, whether that's a curb or a pothole or any number of things. That's going to generate a lot of side load in this, that if we have a long bolt, it's going to immediately bend your motor mount bolt, and that could very well damage either the motor or the frame. And so by sinking our bolts in deep and creating an area of kind of high stress in our slider is going to take the bulk of the damage and not pass that on to the more expensive parts of the motorcycle. If you don't or can't get access to these tools for the installation, there's alternative version, which is kind of the quick and dirty. Not something we recommend, but you can do it, and that's using the long leg of an Allen key, and then doesn't matter what size, but an appropriately sized box end wrench to get yourself your leverage. So that's also an option. Now the installation of the sliders is actually really straightforward. On the naked bike, rather than the faired version, you actually have two options. You can either use this front mount, which is what I prefer on the naked bike just because it looks a little cleaner. But on the faired bike, you're only going to have access to this rear mount. And ultimately, the choice is yours, at least on the naked version. On this bike as delivered, the front and rear actually do have different torque settings. And until the factory manual comes out, we can confirm that. Our recommendation is 35 foot-pounds on the front and 60 on the rear. That's just based on what was delivered from the factory. So the installation procedure is actually really quick. We're going to do the front mounts in this case, and obviously you repeat this on the other side. But start by removing the factory bolt. You're going to need your 8 millimeter wrench, or in this case Allen socket. You're going to remove that bolt and save it. You're going to take the longer of the two supplied motor mount bolts in our kit, slide it through, and the easy way you'll know if it's the right length bolt, you take your factory bolt in your assembly and you'll see they're exactly the same length in terms of thread sticking out. And you'll reuse your long socket to key in. That slider post is actually going to very neatly slide inside the pocket on that part of the frame bar. You can use your hands to start it. Use your ratchet to get it pretty close, and then switch your socket onto your torque wrench. Like I said, we recommend for the front mounts to do 35 foot-pounds and higher up to 60 on the back. So tighten it until your torque wrench pops. And the last step is you're going to take your replaceable slider cap, and you'll notice there's an O-ring on there, and it's going to thread on really easy at first, and then your cap's going to start getting a little bit harder to turn as it engages that O-ring, but you'll feel it bottom out. Use two hands to give it a nice snug twist, and then you can see it's all flush, everything's kind of nicely concealed, and you get a whole lot of really good kind of abrasion surface for tip overs and low sides, and it'll totally protect a good amount of the kind of exposed part of your motor on the GSX-S. Now I'll swing around to the left side of the motorcycle. You can see we've got the second slider installed in that same lower position. Left side does use the shorter of the two bolts, but otherwise the installation procedure is exactly the same. As we rotate around, you can see the stick out on the left and right sides, plenty of protection for the cases and the frame. Pretty clean looking setup, really matches kind of the other circular features on the motor cases. As you swing around, you can also see we do make a fender eliminator kit for the GSX-S1000, 1000F. Check us out direct on our website, www.vagabondmotorsports.com. You can also get our products on Amazon and eBay. Thank you guys.